My dear students, so far we studied the three supplementary reading process, and now the last one. Let's have a look at the last supplementary reading prose, that is the bird of happiness. In this lesson, we see what is the meaning of happiness, what really gives us happiness. The things which give us happiness are the rivers, the forests, the flowers, the beautiful mountains, the warmth, the rain. Simply, the nature gives us the happiness. Here in this lesson, we study that there is a very poor area in Tibet. And in that area, there were no forests, there were no flowers, there were no rivers, there were no fields, there was no rain. And the people in that area were always sad and they were always poor and they suffered from hunger and cold all the year. But still, the people of that area believed that one or another day they will definitely get happiness. The old people of that area believed that happiness is living in the form of a bird in the far and far away place towards the east. If that bird of happiness flew to their village, that will definitely bring happiness to them. Every year, many people tried to go to the bird of happiness, but they were all dead because that bird of happiness was guarded by three huge dangerous monsters. Ultimately, a very bright young boy called Wangjia came forward and said, I will go to bird of happiness and I will bring that bird of happiness to my village. The people of that village became very happy, and the girls of that village offered him barley wine, and the woman of that village spread barley grains on his head. So they all wished him best of luck. Then Wangjia began his journey, and after walking towards east many days, he came across the first monster, and that first monster's voice was like crow's voice, and that first monster roared at Wangjia, who are you? Why have you come here? Then Wangjia replied, I am Wangjia and I have come here to see the bird of happiness. The first monster began laughing, and it said, if you want to see the bird of happiness, you have to kill Laosang's mother. Otherwise, I will make you walk on the scree of 900 miles. Scree means a very rough road, and the road with very sharp stones. Wangjia, without a second thought, very clearly said to that monster, I love my mother and I don't have any right to kill others. Do anything you want. Then that monster began to blow through his beard, and suddenly a beautiful smooth road turned into scree. Anyway, Wangjia began walking on that road. When he covered first 100 miles on that road, his chappal's lower part came apart, and at the second 100 miles his feet were torn into pieces and they became like shreds, and in the next 100 miles his hands became shred, and he felt very sad, and he felt that it is very tough going here, it is better I should go back. This thought came into his mind for a while, but again he thought that his people are waiting for a happiness, and it's a mission that he must do for his people. Keeping in mind his people's happiness, he continued his journey. Anyway, he began crawling, and he did anything, and he covered that 100 miles journey also. And now the second monster was standing there. The second monster was standing there with brown beard and the voice like whistling wind, and it shouted at Wangjia, why have you come here? What do you want? And it roared at Wangjia. Then Wang Jia told him, I want to see the bird of happiness. Then the second monster also posed a challenge to Wang Jia, and it asked to poison old Gaffer Silong. Then again, without any second thought, Wang Jia very clearly told to the second monster, I love my own grandpa. Why should I poison another grandpa? And it is impossible for me to do that task. You do anything you want. Then again, this second monster also began to blow through his beards, and as a result, the bread bag of Wang Jia flew away, and the green rivers and the blue mountains, those all turned into endless desert, and there was not even a single drop of water around him, and nothing to eat. Again, Wang Jia, without any hesitation, continued his journey. After the first 100 miles, his stomach began to rumble, and he started feeling so much pain in his stomach. And after the second 100 miles, he was in so much pain out of hunger that in the day itself he began to see the stars. And after the third 100 miles, he began a sharp pain in his guts, as if somebody is taking a knife and piercing into his guts. Anyway, he tolerated all these pains, and he continued his journey, and he reached the third monster. There he was standing. This monster was with white beard, and he also shouted, why have you come here? Wang Jia replied him and told him the reason for his entry into that area. And that third monster also gave a challenge to Wang Jia, and that third monster told that you have to pull out Bhima's eyes. Wang Jia very clearly told to this third monster, I don't want to pull out a beautiful girl's eyes, and you do anything you want. Then this monster also began to blow through his beard, and Wang Jia's eyeballs came out from their sockets, and he became completely blind. And how can he reach the bird of happiness? Anyway, he began to feel the sun. The sun rises in the east, so he started his journey towards the east just by feeling the warmth, and ultimately he reached the bird of happiness, and there he heard the sweet voice of bird of happiness. The bird of happiness called him, my lovely child, have you come for me? Wang Jia became very happy, and anyway, whatever hardships he suffered, for all those hardships he was rewarded here. That bird of happiness caressed Wang Jia with love, and his eyes went back to their sockets, and all his bruises, pains, and wounds were all healed, and he began to feel much stronger than earlier. Then the bird of happiness gave him dried meat and some cream cakes. Wang Jia ate them all, and he was very happy. The bird of happiness asked him, what do you want, my child? Then Wang Jia explained to the bird of happiness the reason for his entry into that area, and he told how his people are desperate for the happiness. Then bird of happiness took him on her back, and they went to the mountain nearby that village, and bird of happiness stood on that, and she gave 3 loud cries, and each of that cry gave prosperity to that area. At the first cry, the golden sun, the sun rose, and all the clouds disappeared, and a warm breeze began to blow from the sky. At the second cry, the surrounding mountains were all covered with beautiful forests, and mountain peach and mountain flowers bloomed, and the lark birds, they began to fly and sing in chorus. At the third cry, the rivers and the fields appeared there, and the little rabbits began to play in the green grass. And this is how that bird of happiness brought happiness to this area. And after that, those people in that area never suffered any poverty, and they were all prosperous, and that area was full of happiness. This is what a small information about this story, the bird of happiness. Here you can see the lesson in points. I have tried to make some points. We can understand this lesson by this way also. A pure area was there in Tibet, and those people believed that bird of happiness will bring happiness to them. And extremely bright boy Wang Jia came forward to go there, but that bird of happiness was guarded by 3 dangerous monsters, and Wang Jia faced all these 3 dangerous monsters. Finally, he brought bird of happiness to his village and brought prosperity to his village. Let's have a look at the 2 mark question and answers of this lesson. The bird of happiness, 2 marks questions and answers. First question, what was the challenge of the first monster? Why did Wang Jia refuse to obey him? When Wang Jia went to see the bird of happiness, first monster appeared before him and he challenged him. What was that challenge? And Wang Jia refused that challenge. Why did he refuse that challenge is the meaning of this question. And this question has appeared in September 2020 SSLC board examination. The first monster with black beards challenged Wang Jia to kill Laosang's mother or walk 900 miles on scree. The first monster told Wang Jia, if you want to see the bird of happiness, you have to kill Laosang's mother. Otherwise, I will make you walk on 900 miles of scree. Scree means the road with sharp knife-like stones. That was the challenge. Wang Jia refused to kill Laosang's mother because he loved his own mother. Wang Jia was a kind-hearted, smooth-hearted person. He refused to kill Laosang's mother as he loved his own mother. He challenged back the monster to do whatever he wished. And he challenged back the monster, I am not ready to kill anybody's mother. You do anything you want. He challenged back. Second question, how can you say that Wang Jia was a brave boy? Wang Jia, though he is a small boy, he is a very brave and very courageous. Prove that. That is the meaning of this question. And this question has appeared in June 2020 board examination. Answer, Wang Jia was a young and brave boy. Courageous, young, bright, amazingly talented boy Wang Jia is. He took the responsibility of bringing happiness to his village. His village was suffering from drought, and there was no rain, there was no rivers, there was no forest, green fields. For that village, he wanted to bring happiness and the prosperity. He faced the 3 horrible and old monsters, and the bird of happiness was being guarded by 3 old and horrible monsters, and he had to face all these 3 monsters. Ultimately, he succeeded in bringing the bird of happiness to his village. Anyway, he faced these 3 monsters and he was very successful, and he brought the bird of happiness to his village. And it is his hard work, and it is his patience and his dedication and determination, those all helped him to accomplish his aim. These are just 2 questions and answers of this lesson. Now 2 more questions and answers are there. Now let's have a look at those questions and answers also. Question 3. Why were the people miserable in Wang Jia's village? In Wang Jia's village, the people were miserable. They were suffering. Why were they suffering and why were they miserable. The people were miserable in Wangjia's village because the area in which they lived was very poor. The poverty was there in that village. That's why the people were miserable and suffering, which had no rivers or good land. There were no rivers which provide water to the agriculture, and there was no good land also to grow some crops and eat well. No warmth or fresh flowers, no flowers, no warm air, only cold air was there. No trees or green grass. Trees will definitely bring happiness to the people, and no trees and green grass to graze the animals. There was no green grass at all. The people who lived there suffered from hunger and cold all year around. The people of that area were also suffering from hunger and cold around the year. They did not know what happiness was like. The meaning of happiness was not known to them. That much they were bereaved of the happiness. What changes came over as the bird of happiness caressed Wang Jia? As soon as Wang Jia went up to the bird of happiness, the bird of happiness caressed him. And as the bird of happiness caressed, a number of changes came over Wang Jia's body. What were those changes? Many changes came over Wang Jia as the bird of happiness caressed him. His eyeballs flew back to their sockets. And as the bird of happiness began caressing him, many changes came over the body of Wang Jia. The first thing which Wang Jia got back was his eyes, and they flew back to their sockets. And he saw much more brightly than before. All his wounds were healed, and he was stronger than ever. As the eyeballs flew back to the sockets of Wang Jia, and he was able to see clearer. And as the bird of happiness caressed his body, all the wounds were healed, and all the bruises were healed, and he was feeling much stronger than earlier. And this is what all about this lesson. This was a very short explanation. That's it, and this is the end of the journey of the passing package. So far in these many episodes, we have discussed many things in this passing package. I would like to tell you one thing, that this passing package will definitely help you to succeed in your examination. But one more thing I would like to tell you, that this passing package is not everything, and this is just a helping hand to you. This is just a torch bearer to you. You have to walk your own journey. Ultimately, you have to rely on your textbooks, because in the textbooks there is God's plenty, and you have everything there, and you have to study the textbooks deeply. But this passing package will definitely help you. I wish you all the best for your examination, and namaskara.